just in my hour meeting.
I'm gonna let you do it without me for a change.
If you please rise and honor our nation's flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gignac?
Here.
Mr. Leary?
Here.
Ms. Martin?
Here.
Mayor Murphy?
Here.
Ms. Rostikowicz? Ms. Scott?
Here.
Mr. Conway?
Here.
6 present, 1 absent.
Thank you. We have under special order of business recognition for Phil Meyer, the head coach of the boys cross country at Lowell High School, has been named the National Federation of High Schools Section 1 Regional Cross Country Coach of the Year. Coach Meyer was honored at the 35th MIAA annual meeting and completed his 25th season as head coach of cross country, capturing the MVC, the MIAA, the EMAS Division I State Championship, and the MIAA Division I State Championship. Coach Meyer's career record is 349, 112, with 6 draws. Last spring, Coach Meyer was inducted to the MSTCA Hall of Fame. Coach Meyer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Madam Superintendent, members of the school committee. I am honored to receive this recognition, but in the words of Mrs. Clinton, it does take a village. This was not something that I did on my own. I'd like to share this honor with some of the important people, first and foremost, my family, for their support. Also, my assistant coach, Scott Willett, former student athlete in our program, who is very enthusiastic about our success. Also, the girls' coaching staff, Mary Beth McKinney-Finn and her staff, in helping us with the everyday coaching responsibilities. Also, the school administration, Mr. DeProfio, Mr. Rosemerick, and of course the school department for their continued support. And of course, the student athletes that were made incredible sacrifice to ensure that we would be finally, for the first time in school history, the best team in Massachusetts. So that was an honor that was achieved through a lot of hard work and the cooperation and support of an awful lot of people. So on behalf of all of us, thank you very much for your continued support. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations to you and the team.
Thank you.
Next we have, under special order of business, appointment of the Director of Special Education. And if you would, this is a voice vote. Madam Superintendent?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Mayor, I am pleased to recommend Jennifer S. McChrystal for the position of Special Education Director of Lowell Public Schools. Jen McChrystal has been a employee in the Lowell Public Schools for more than 20 years. She began as a teacher in elementary and worked through the different levels of the organization. She's been a team chairperson at the elementary. She's also done work as the assistant director and in the middle school, which is her position right now. And for a while, she was the department chair for special education at Lowell High School. So she has a multifaceted background, and she has been dedicated to Lowell children her entire career. We are extremely lucky at this time to have somebody is so well prepared and so energetic and enthusiastic to lead the future of our children who have the most needs in our district. And so I just would like for your approval for this, and I'm extremely delighted with this candidacy.
Thank you. What's the wish of the committee? Move to approve by Ms. Martin, seconded by Mr. Gignac. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gignac?
Jennifer McChrystal.
Mr. Leary?
Jennifer McChrystal.
Miss Martin?
Jennifer McChrystal.
Mayor Murphy?
Jennifer McChrystal.
Ms. Ross Sikowicz? Ms. Scott?
Jennifer McChrystal.
Mr. Conway?
Jennifer McChrystal.
6 for Jennifer McChrystal, 1 absent, approved.
Congratulations. Next, we have the appointment of the Assistant Superintendent of Student Support Services. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, thank you. The interviews for the Assistant Superintendent for Student Support Services were completed last week, and the successful candidate was Janine Durkin. Janine Durkin is currently working as a director of the Freshman Academy, but Janine also has been a member of our school department from the teaching force on for more than 20 years. She is extremely prepared to take on the challenges of our needs in student services, and I have great faith in her ability to continue the excellent work in student services that is being left by Assistant Superintendent Murphy to the next level in the future. And so I am elated that Ms. Durkin has accepted our offer to become the next Assistant Superintendent for Student Support Services.
Thank you. What's the wish of the committee? Motion to approve by Ms. Martin, seconded by Ms. Scott. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gignac?
Janine Durkin.
Mr. Leary?
Janine Durkin.
Miss Martin?
Janine Durkin.
Mayor Murphy?
Janine Durkin.
Ms. Ross Sikowicz? Ms. Scott?
Janine Durkin.
Mr. Conway?
Janine Durkin.
6 for Janine Durkin, 1 absent, approved.
And congratulations to Janine. Ms. Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Certainly it's exciting to have these two very high caliber individuals moving into these very critically important positions. If we could, and I know it has been our kind of tradition, if we could invite both these individuals to come to perhaps our next school committee meeting so they can give a brief introduction to the committee, more importantly to the community that tunes in. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Next, we have under permission to enter. Permission to enter April 17th, 2013. Madam Superintendent?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. To Perkins School for the Blind for $58,230 to amend the existing contract to provide for the additional out-of-district tuition costs for 3 students enrolled in receiving services as outlined in the special education IEP. Funding provided by the school department budget special education tuition account. To the Whitney Academy Incorporated in the amount of $28,981 to provide for the out-of-district cost for 1 student enrolled in receiving services as outlined in the special education IEP, funding provided by the school department budget special education tuition account. To the town of Methuen, the amount of $15,000 to provide for the out-of-district tuition for 3 students enrolled in receiving services as outlined in their special education IEP, again, funding provided by the school department budget special education tuition account, and to Teaching Strategies LLC in the amount of $19,500 to provide training on the Teaching Strategies Gold Assessment Systems to administrators, kindergarten teachers, special education teachers, and kindergarten paraprofessionals, funding provided by the Race to the Top Massachusetts Kindergarten Entry Assessment Project Grant.
Thank you. What's the wish of the committee? Mr. Conway.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, seconded by Mr. Gignac. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Miss Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Ross Sikowicz? Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
Thank you. We have under minutes, approval of the minutes of the regularly scheduled meeting of Wednesday, April 3rd, 2013. Entertain a motion to approve. So moved by Ms. Martin, seconded by Ms. Scott. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have memorials. For Danny Svay, former Stocklosa Middle School student, and Jane Killock, former Lowell High School teacher. And of course, we continue to pray for the victims of the Boston Marathon bombings. If you'd please rise in a moment of silence and darken chambers. Next, we have under unfinished business, revised permission to post for 2 temporary plumbers. Madam Superintendent?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the prior meeting, approval to hire 2 temporary plumbers was realized, and this particular memo from Mr. Lane is asking for an approval of a transfer of $2,483.82 from the Lowell School Committee suspense account to the plumber's salary account. A bulk of it was already approved, but an additional amount has to be moved, so for your review.
Thank you. Any discussion? I'd entertain a motion then to approve the posting to hire 2 temporary plumbers at the prorated annual salary of $45,557 for the duration of the capital project. Mr. Gignac?
Just if we could add the transfer.
That'll be a separate motion.
Okay.
Yep. So moved by Mr. Gignac, seconded by Mr. Leary. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Ross Sikowicz? Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
Thank you. Next, I'd entertain a motion to approve the transfer of $2,483.82 from the Lowell School Committee suspense account to the new plumber's salary account. The transfer of $13,285.80 was approved at the last meeting. So moved by Mr. Gignac, seconded by Mr. Leary. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Ross Sikowicz? Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
Thank you. Next, we have motions. Motion by Mr. David Conway. Ask the superintendent to send a congratulations letter from the Lowell School Committee to the UMass Lowell hockey team and their coaching staff for having a very successful season and reaching the Frozen Four National College Hockey Final. Seconded by Mr. Leary. Mr. Conway.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I think it's self-explanatory. The fact that UMass Lowell hockey team had a great season. And again, we want to congratulate the team, and we want to congratulate the university, because that only brings positive things to the city of Lowell. So again, congratulations to all those student athletes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next motion by Mr. Robert Gignac. Request the superintendent research the possibility of enrolling the district in an emergency text messaging program, similar to the programs that colleges and universities use to notify students, staff, and parents of on-campus emergencies. Seconded by Mr. Conway. Mr. Gignac.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the motion is pretty straightforward. However, for those that are not familiar with what I'm discussing, most colleges and universities and large organizations utilize an emergency text messaging system, which simply sends out a text message of on-campus emergencies. And I just think this is an easy way to improve our communication. And this can be accessed to our students, staff, and parents. So this is just another way for us to improve our communication and maybe help us out when emergencies occur. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next motion by Mr. James Leary to request that the superintendent develop a team and provide a strategic plan for the writing and submitting of the Carol M. White Physical Education Program grant for the 2014-2015 school year. This comprehensive grant is awarded to schools and organizations to initiate, expand, and improve physical education programs. The Lowell Public Schools is in need of expanding and improving physical education curriculum and instruction, as well as awareness to childhood health and obesity. Being awarded this grant would assist the district in ensuring that all the students have access to a well-articulated physical education program from pre-K through 12. Seconded by Mr. Conway. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Mr. Leary.
Just a couple of paragraphs. I think, first I want to thank many of the physical education teachers in the district who have really worked hard in beginning the process of this grant, as well as our curriculum department led by Assistant Superintendent Claire Abrams. I think the motion itself, if we are successful in obtaining this grant, it's worth about $1 million over a 3-year period of time. And you're thinking of the motions that a lot of the committee members have written over the past few years. In particular, my favorite, the adventure education, rope courses, as well as, you think of Mr. Conway's motion about sports after school. A lot of the issues come around to funding, and obviously we're working hard and doing bits and pieces here and there, but this is really what this grant can fund to achieve a lot of the goals that many of our members have. And hopefully we'd be able to put our full effort forward to achieve this. It would also include K through 8, but it also include after-school programs. So I think it's a pretty cool grant, and I appreciate the involvement of the physical education department, K through 12, as well as our assistant superintendent of curriculum. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Conway.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Taking a look at the motion, it's something that each and every member on this committee has talked about numerous times. There's obviously some very, very important things that can come out of a grant like this, and the only problem I have with it is the fact that to request the superintendent, I'm wondering whether the maker of the motion would allow an amendment to that motion to ask the superintendent to look into the feasibility of it, because I think that, again, looking at this grant, and there's no doubt about it, it would be great if we could get it. Those grants are anywhere from $100,000 to $700,000, and it's a lot of money. However, I think the process, when we take a look at the process, you'll find that between the instructions of the grant, the description of the grant, and so forth, it's almost 100 pages. And, that can be, we're going in obviously, staff is going in so many different directions. And I think we have to be careful bringing forward grants and requesting that the superintendent take care of it. I think that what I would like to hear from the superintendent is a report, if we could get a report again about the feasibility of being able to put a team together and still be able to run the rest of the system in a very effective way, that we're not taking needed resources away from areas that could end up being a bit of a problem. Again, I think that the grant, the idea of it is wonderful. I think it's extremely important, but I would ask for a amended motion to ask the superintendent to look into the feasibility of developing a team and provide strategic plan. So I'd like to add that in.
I have no problem looking at
maker
the
of the motion,
feasibility.
Mr. Leary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's totally appropriate. And I believe me, I could have spoken, like I said, more at length in terms of the process. The assistant superintendent and I have discussed this offline. We were really trying to get this before April 15th. No way in the world we were going to achieve that, because it's really challenging. Mr. Conway is absolutely right. I think I've spoken to at least 12 physical education teachers. They come up to you after they heard that you're even talking about it. They're very excited. They all want to be a part of it. I mean, people I don't even know come up to me that are phys ed teachers saying, I want to be part of drafting this. This is something that we need. I agree, though, in an effort to show the rest of the committee how important it is, doing a feasibility and getting an understanding, and I'm sure that the administration will come back saying this is something that's well worthwhile doing, because there's a lot of people who are just ready to go. It's a question of holding them back, I think, more than anything. But in an effort to get it expedited and get it moving, I'll do that. I think it's important. I think it achieves a lot of the goals that my colleague has and I have shared. After-school sport programs, school programs. This is part of that funding mechanism to do that. But you're right, it isn't going to be an easy thing. It's not a slam dunk, because it's worth about $1 million if you're successful in achieving it. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Conway to amend, seconded by Mr. Leary. Ms. Martin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to add in, as the superintendent is kind of crafting her response, I know that we do have some additional grant writing support that exists now with Greater Lowell Community Foundation. Is that something that would be included in this, in terms of a resource for taking this kind of, important grant proposal from beginning to end?
Thank you. Madam Superintendent?
At this particular point, the grant writer has not been appointed at this particular point. When the Community Foundation grants come into play, it will be focused and targeted on the goals of the district and the community at large. And so as part of that work, there are projects that will be included that make for a better whole day for the kid. And this, could be one of them. So I just have to get those key ideas, which we know. We know what this committee wants. We know what this city needs: more science, technology, more opportunities for young people. So it could be part of the planning.
Sure. Ms. Martin.
Do we have a timeline of when this person's going to be in place?
We have conducted interviews. We are at kind of an offering stage, so we're at that particular point. It is, the offers are being handled by the foundation.
Right.
And so Mr. Riddick is, just to let everybody know in the whole city, having a couple of vacation days, but we are fastly moving towards bringing aboard a very talented person. So it's in the talking stages at this particular point.
So we could be looking at next month as
yeah,
a reasonable start time.
hopefully.
Within the month of May.
We're just kind of trying to get to the end of getting people informed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Conway.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a point of clarification. Again, it's a very exciting time to have help from the business community with a grant writer. I mean, that's something that this committee passed a number of months ago, to have a grant writer that would be financed strictly by the business community. And that's what they did. They raised the money, and the interviews took place, and I think the superintendent was part of it, but also the business community and the community, different organizations was involved. And I think that again, I think we have to be a little careful, because that's not an employee of the school department. That's someone that is funded, strictly 100% funded by the business community to aid us, to help us. And I think the whole idea of it was to, again, give some ideas, some general topics that we would like to maybe have this individual take a look at down the road. Because in education, we focus on state and federal grants. That seems to be our forte. And I think that, as we all know, the monies have dried up on the state and the federal level. And that's why when I put that motion on quite a few months ago, to focus on the corporate grants, to focus on foundation money, monies that a school system normally doesn't tap into. So again, I think we'll be very excited to bring that forward, hopefully within that next month, and whoever that individual has been picked, I think that person should be certainly invited to a school committee meeting, and again, congratulated, and again, we look forward for this person helping our school system and the business community. It's just one other example of how important partnerships really are, that this business community just stepped up right to the plate and helped us out. Ms. Martin was on that committee helping formulate it. And again, I think it's exciting times. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this motion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have subcommittees. Facilities Subcommittee report of the meeting of Wednesday, April 17th, 2013. Mr. Leary.
We just held this meeting, thank you, Mayor. We just held this meeting at 6 o'clock before this meeting, so I'm looking through my own handwriting and trying to decipher exactly what we tried to achieve. It was a good meeting. It was a very detailed meeting. We talked about 7 different items, and I'll try to go over them quickly. There was one motion regarding the high school doors and the access building coding system, and then Mr. Lang will jump in if I miss any important items that we discussed. But primarily, the bidding that went out for the doors at the high school came over, I guess was double the budget cost, and there was only one bidder. This is the second time that we've gone out to bid for the high school doors. After discussing it with the city administration, the school administration's recommendation is to really separate the door timeframes when we implement the doors with the access building coding and carding. This wouldn't mean we would not do the full high school. It would mean we'd do it in separate phases, being the 1980 building and the field house first, because it's in the most need of repair, and then go through the spring and the summer, and then folding into the remainder of the high school in the fall. The reason for this is a lot of the bidders, after talking offline with some of the bidders, there's a lot of other projects going on in other districts. A lot of folks, bidders or general contractors, don't want to bid the size of the high school because it is enormous, and not being able to meet the time frames of the summer to complete it. So it makes sense, I think, from the administration standpoint, as well as the city administration agreeing, that we separate it out. In addition, we would be able to do the Robinson School this summer. So the phase basically would be the 1980 building, the field house, this spring and summer. That would include the the access building cards coding that we've talked about at length. And then in the spring, the fall, going back out to bid for the remainder of the high school. In addition, as we get into a later discussion with the capital plan, we would start to look at the rest of the school system in terms of needing, when their doors are in most need, rolling in the same type program, new doors with the e-access carding. So what we did is the administration recommended a motion to the full school committee that myself and Mr. Gignac made the motion, and I seconded it, and we both approved to make a recommendation to the full school committee that we separate the approval, the doors, and I'm going to try to read my own handwriting here. Separate the doors and make the recommendation to the administration to separate the 1980 and Robinson schools from the overall bid and advertise immediately for work to commence in the summer of 2013. Further, I guess that we would begin the freshman academy in the 1922 building in the fall of 2014. Redo the bidding at that point. It's a pretty long motion, but it's essentially just separating out the bids, but trying to get the high school completed by hopefully before the winter time of the end of the year 2014. So I make that in the form of a motion.
Seconded by Mr. Gignac. Any discussion on the motion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Ross Sikowicz? Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
Mr. Leary?
Just quickly, there's 6 other items. There were really no other votes, but just to quickly go through them. The Riley Elementary School bathroom project renovation is in progress. We expect completion by mid-May. The water fountain repair replacement, which we just voted on, some of the plumbers that will be doing that project will begin, I believe, in mid-May as well, and we expect, change the vernacular, we expect it to be done this summer before the school year. The bathroom partition replacement came in under budget, and we expect, this is for the elementary schools, we expect that to begin as well in the summertime. We expect in our capital plan for the middle schools to be taking fashion FY14, FY15. The comprehensive facilities assessment, that team has begun. They're going to be going through the plan, and we'll be having more, I guess, on May 1st from the administration, so I won't get into detail tonight. We didn't talk about it at length, and we anticipate a full report on the May 1st meeting. The FY 2014 capital plan was presented. It's in front of you. The city administration and the school administration have worked pretty aggressively together to put a plan in for spending $12 million for the entire city for the FY14 plan, of which $7 million goes directly to schools. And you can look through the plan, it's pretty aggressive. We did go into more meticulous discussion regarding particular schools, particular facilities that would be enacted in 014. We do know that, and we want everybody to take this home and obviously digest it, as the council, I think, had it received the same plan last night. If you see something that you think is missing, let's bring it up at the May 1st meeting so we can at least bring it attention to the school administration so they can bring it to the city. I believe, Mayor, and you know more than I would know, I think the goal for the city administration is to vote on this in the middle of May, prior to the budget. But as you can see, as you go through it quickly,
The goal, it was just referred to a public hearing on May 6th, I believe.
so we better get out there pretty quick. If you have any issues, you think that something's missing, but as you can see, it's a real aggressive plan that we haven't seen in multiple years. I mean, this is $7 million in FY14 with a plan to roll into FY15. And it does everything from replacing the HVAC issues, which have been a problem at the high school as well as other schools, making that a top priority. We did go over in detail with Mr. Lang. Do we think that we were requesting enough? And I think the administration, both the superintendent and the assistant superintendent, said they are very comfortable with what they recommended. And that we're very appreciative of working in collaboration with the city. These are much-needed issues. We did touch upon the FY15 year plan. A lot of that may change as we go into it. Mr. Gignac pointed out correctly that as we get into the high school and the accreditation, with the plans for not only the school building authority, looking at the science labs and other HVAC projects, we may have additions or changes as we go forward. So the FY15 is not obviously in stone. But it is, again, we're looking at $12 million for next year for the entire city. Many of the projects that you look at, Mr. Lang, with his creative utensil, put S next to, that's the school projects, if you can look through the chart. Many of these projects, if the council does verify these could begin prior to FY14. So it's a good plan. It's something long time coming, and I think we got to thank the city and the administration for working together with our school administration, and thank our staff for putting the time and effort. And it's not exciting and wild, crazy stuff to talk about, but it's real important. It's going to impact the quality of education, K through 12, and it's going to make the facilities a place where people want to go to work in terms of dealing with the environment that our staff has had issues, particularly in the high school, but also other areas K through 8. So it's a good thing. Mr. Lang ended the discussion about what, in terms of all these projects, city and school side, that we need to take a look at how we're going to administer them. The staffing right now as it exists at both the city and the school side isn't sufficient enough to do that. They are going to be coming forward with a plan in our budget in terms of how do we look at that. Permanent employee, part-time employee, consultant, combination working with the city. So that's something that we did discuss briefly, and we expect to have more recommendations and more discussion from the committee as well as the council and the administrations. Mr. Gignac has made a motion for a report of progress, and I seconded. All in favor to recommend to the committee this report, so I make that as a motion for a report of progress.
Motion by Mr. Leary, seconded by Mr. Conway. Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next, we have reports of the superintendent. First report in response to the motion of March 6th, 2013 by Kristen Ross Sikowicz for the executive session minutes. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, there was a request by committee member Russ Sikowicz to look into the posting of executive session minutes online. I referred that particular motion to the city solicitor, and you have in your packet a response from City Solicitor Christine O'Connor, and I am going to just read it verbatim because it is a legal opinion. So she writes, in response to the request that the superintendent post executive session minutes online until the governmental body has determined that the need for the executive session no longer exists, the minutes regarding the executive session shall remain confidential. The governmental body, its chair or its designee, is responsible for periodically reviewing its executive session minutes to determine if continued non-disclosure is appropriate. Such determination shall be included in the minutes of the next meeting. Once a determination has been made to release the executive session minutes, posting such minutes online, while not required, would certainly further the goals of the Massachusetts open meeting law. In deliberating whether various executive sessions minutes should remain confidential, the law department is available to assist the school committee in such matters. So in answer to what Ms. Rusikowitz is asking is, then that kind of makes us look back on cause for executive sessions and then to enact, of course, what the recommendation of the city solicitor is. Just getting this response, I will look at that with my team and get some more guidance from the city solicitor, because this is kind of new territory in all honesty, and I would want to do what is legally correct.
Thank you. Ms. Martin?
Thank you very much. I think this is certainly the direction we need to be moving in, and I think we certainly appreciate the solicitor's insights as we move forward, and I'm sure we'll be relying on them more in the future. One of the things I think that, just based on this information, as we start crafting what really needs to be a procedure of the way we do this, what I'd recommend is that we should have a kind of standard, whether it's, every January, whether it's every December, or someplace in between those two, that is designated as, this is the time every year when the chair and the body do that review of all the executive minutes that have occurred in the calendar year or school year before. At this point, certainly we have to do there's a backlog that we'll need to deal with, and that will, offer some challenges. But I think as we move forward, it's going to be important that we build this into our calendar year. This is something we do every year. We look back over the course of that year. There will be some years where we can release a great deal. There will be others, I'm thinking of where we are right now when we're kind of midstream in contract negotiations, as an example, where we wouldn't be able to release anything until the negotiations were complete with all the units we negotiate with. But I think moving forward, if we do have an annual time of year where that's just the standard, SOP, standard operating procedure. Every January, we review all of our past executive session minutes and release all that we can. I think that would get us on kind of a schedule that would make this easy, for us to continue getting things out as quickly as we possibly can. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this report? Entertain a motion to accept and place on file. So moved by Ms. Martin, seconded by Ms. Scott. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next report, in response to the motion of March 20th, 2013 by Kim Scott on core subjects. Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, in response to a motion by Ms. Scott, which was to request the superintendent to provide a report on the amount of time spent on core subject areas at each grade level and at each school, Ms. Abrams has provided a comprehensive report. I'm going to just go over the overall components from my reading of the report, but I'm going to then turn it over to Ms. Abrams so she can ask the details. As a district, we have followed a 90-minute literacy block in grades K through 6 for a long period of time, and 7 and 8 also has the extra additional pieces. In that comprehensive balanced literacy block in ELA has many components which are shared in great detail in this particular document, which talks about the reading block, the writing block, how they intertwine. The same thing is provided for you all in the area of mathematics throughout the district, which is a 60-minute core instructional block, and then an additional 30 minutes, which is specially adapted for differentiation, which would be enrichment and modification and additional practice. So when it comes down to the other subject areas, there are timelines in the area of social studies and science, and it also breaks down the reading and the writing in this particular document to all of the components, how much time is allotted, so it gets to the detail of what the motion asks for. Ms. Abrams, the writer of the report, in collaboration with her team, has many more details. I would turn it over to her, and then I would ask any questions the committee may have.
I want to say that I am confident in the work that's being done in literacy and mathematics in this district. The coordinators who oversee those two areas have provided for you, as the superintendent said, this very comprehensive report. It's taken a long time to get where we needed to be in literacy and mathematics. We're still learning and growing all the time. The more we dig deeper into the new Common Core state standards, we find more and more that we need to do even more rigorous, comprehensive work. But out in the schools, it's a joy to walk into classrooms and to see these particular reading workshops and writing workshops taking place with our youngest learners all the way up to our students in grade 8. So I'm very confident in those two areas. As I've spoken about before and continue to be concerned with, the areas of science and social studies are areas that we need to improve. As you've seen in the report, it's kind of static and not the same at all schools, something that we are working with. We've met with principals, middle school principals this year, showed them the same numbers that you have in front of you, and said that we really need to look at schedules and make these changes. Given that science is really, not that social studies is not as important, it is, but science is going to be a high-stakes test for us now. And the new generation of science standards just came out this past week. We need to relook at those, and we need to see what those standards are saying so that we can be very clear on what we need to teach at each grade level. So I'll accept any questions or concerns.
Any discussion? Ms. Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to start off by thanking Ms. Abrams for all the work that she did on this. When we toured the schools, we consistently saw consistent work being done in reading, writing, mathematics, and I appreciate that there will be work done over the summer to do the alignment on the science and the social studies. And I did find it troubling in the report that said the amount of time for science and social studies varies by school. Especially where we have a fair amount of transiency in the district. I think it's very important that we're pretty uniform, and there's a pretty dramatic difference between 35 minutes and 60 minutes a day of science done across the board. So I look forward to this work, and I thank you for all the time that you've put into it.
Welcome.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Entertain a motion to accept as a report of progress. So moved by Ms. Martin, seconded by Mr. Leary. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next report, graduation dates 2013. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to review the grades for high school graduation and adult ed graduation. Lowell High School graduation occurs this year on Friday, June 7th at 6 o'clock at the Songus Center. And our adult education graduation is on Friday, May 31st. Because we moved from Wednesday to the Friday, it usually is that first Wednesday in the month, but because it was always coinciding with this meeting, we moved the adult ed to the Friday before the high school graduation, May 31st, at the Lowell High School Cyrus W. Irish Auditorium. And just for all of you, unless barring any emergencies, the last day of school will be June 19th.
Thank you. Any discussion? Move to approve by Ms. Martin, seconded by Mr. Gignac. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next, we have personnel report. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is your monthly report updates on any resignations, retirements, and new hires or promotions in the district to date.
Thank you. Mr. Gignac.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question. I feel like I've seen Assistant Superintendent Ann Murphy's name on here a few different times. I don't want you to leave, but is there a reason? Is the date changing, or I don't?
I believe that it has already appeared on a former report.
Yeah, it was on. I think this is the third report.
Yeah.
I mean,
We're just
I don't
trying to
like
get
to
us
be
all ready,
reminded.
I mean, including me. So we just keep on putting her on the report. I actually Don't know why, but I think the date is different than everybody else's.
You don't have to rub it
And we
in.
even hired somebody this meeting. But seriously, it has appeared again. So good question, Mr. Gignac, good catch, but we will not put it, we
You're
will
welcome.
not advertise again.
Thank you, Mr. Gignac. Any further discussion on this report? Do we have a motion? So moved by Ms. Martin, seconded by Mr. Gignac. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next, we have the list of eligible teachers. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, this is the monthly list of eligible teachers that we provide for you to keep you currently informed.
Any discussion? Entertain a motion to accept and place on file, so moved by Ms. Scott, seconded by Mr. Gignac. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next, we have a report on the Education Enrichment Program in Berlin, Germany. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to provide the committee with information because this is a request for a conference, which is a little bit different, but has a educational piece of it that could be really interesting for Lowell. Miriam Morgenstern, who is a social studies teacher at Lowell High School, has provided quite a bit of different experiential learning that she's gone to Cambodia a couple of times. She's brought back some very important units about in different areas. So Ms. Morgenstern was invited to participate in a project in Germany this year. And so she had done a Holocaust history tour, and she brought that back to her students. And she's a very excellent teacher in the social studies. She was invited to go to an exchange program. And so in this piece, she's going to have to pay for her own travel and accommodations, but there's some part that's paid for by the program. The reason why I wanted to bring it before the committee, and I'm doing it here because we didn't have a curriculum subcommittee meeting, is because there's some school time, professional time that's involved for Ms. Morgenstern, but also when in fact, if it's a successful program, she thinks it's very beneficial for us to bring an exchange teacher from Germany. I just didn't want you to be surprised for that to happen. So there's an exchange component to this particular piece. Ms. Morgenstern is requesting time out of school from June 8th through, let me just see, the 19th. Thank you, Ms. Martin. And because she's stating that she does have a number of seniors that she would have her professional duties taken care of, but it is a different kind of request, so I just didn't want it to be lumped with the other requests for a one-day kind of a endeavor. And if you read further into the report, Ms. Morgan, she has worked with the Cambodian government, brought back really some very beneficial teaching. She had an exchange with the Cambodian teachers. Some of the members here approved that in other committees that two Cambodian teachers came and did an internship here. So it's an interest of hers, but it also is really tied to core curriculum. But it could be that if it's a successful program, we would be asking for us to accept a student, a teacher to come and stay here, and then for a Lowell High teacher to perhaps go for an extended time to Germany. So I just wanted you to know about it before you approve the conference, if that happened.
Thank you. Ms. Martin.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you kind of pointing it out as a different type of professional development opportunity. As I look through the information, I think it looks like an amazing opportunity for this educator, and I can absolutely see the huge benefit it would have for our students. So, I think it could really be the beginning of a kind of deepening relationship where we could bring, a teacher from the program over here to teach in Lowell. So I think it's a really interesting idea, and I would certainly support it.
Thank you. Entertain then a motion to approve. So moved by Ms. Martin, seconded by Mr. Conway. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next, we have a report on the Alternative Diploma Program, an update. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Murphy. This is an update on the success of the program that, with our affiliation with UTEC. There's an alternative diploma program that this committee has sponsored and supported over time, and Ms. Murphy has given us highlights of the program, how many students have been involved in the success rate. It is broken down by semester. As you recall, this is a program that was a part-time program. You approved it to become a full-time program at UTEC, and children are there, and they work during the day. Over time, there have been many courses and many success stories. At this particular time, for graduation this year, the total number of graduates that are going to earn a Lowell High diploma are 15. In the program, and the good news about the program at UTEC is that it is another very rich opportunity for up to 30 children. I think even 32 can be enrolled at any time, and it's a revolving schedule. So there's requirements that are made, and it has been quite successful, and we wanted to just give you an update, and if Ms. Murphy wants to add any details, or if the committee have any questions about the program, we welcome them.
Mr. Gignac.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Assistant Superintendent Murphy, for this report. I think it's important that we do get an update periodically. Just a few questions. Can we get a report on the number of students that enter the program and the number of students that actually exit the program successfully, as well as anybody that may drop out? Because my understanding is sometimes they do drop out and they don't go to the high school. In certain instances, I know it's not often, but sometimes my understanding that occurs. Just a simple report like that would be useful. Also, the superintendent had mentioned that 15 students will be receiving or have received a high school diploma this year. Do they receive that, do they walk in graduation, or do they have their own separate graduation?
Okay, let me see if I can answer some of your questions. Anyway, yeah, all of the students have to be Lowell High School, registered Lowell High School students to be eligible for the program. Yeah. And this year, where we now have a coordinator of student services, that person has worked really closely with the UTEC program to make sure that the referral process has been seamless for the students. At one time, when we first started the program, it was also a recovery program. So we were getting kids in who had already dropped out of school. We've switched over to it being more for our students who are in school. I can get you the number of students who come in and aren't successful. Some of those students, I suspect, may withdraw and then may resurface in a couple of months back at Lowell High School.
Sure.
There's a lot of transiency there, but I will try to get you those numbers. And what was your other question?
As far as graduation.
The graduation, the students will meet their graduation requirements throughout the year.
Yep.
This year, we've changed over to a trimester schedule, and it seems to have been very successful for the students. They are eligible to walk across the stage and graduate at Lowell High School and get their diploma then. They do not actually get their diploma until after Lowell High School graduates.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this report? Entertained then a motion to accept it and place on file. So moved by Mr. Gignac, seconded by Mr. Leary. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next, under new business, we have the food service management contract to authorize the RFP. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, thank you. This is a report from Mr. Lang, who is informing us that the 3-year contract with Aramac is up, and we have to move forward to get a new RFP to engage a food service management company. Mr. Lang recommends that we continue with a company to do this work. We would like for you to authorize us to issue an RFP for the administration and management of the Lowell Public Schools food service process from this year, July 1, 2013 through June 20th, 2016. And there has to be a 3-year with an annual review. So if Mr. Lang has any more to add to that, it's just request for your permission to go forward.
Thank you. Ms. Martin?
Thank you. Just to clarify, as you present this, I do think it's important to note that it's Mr. Lang's recommendation isn't to move forward with this company, but to move forward with a company to provide the service. That it's an open request for proposals as we go forward. You know, and having had the experience of working with Aramark over these last few years, I think we've had. I would say for myself as an individual, I've been pleased overall with their service. I do think this is an opportunity as we go out to bid to introduce some new priorities for our system. And I think one of the key things I'd like us to be able to incorporate into our language would be language specifically around the use of fresh product, and also the use of local product, local sourcing for the food that we're going to be serving in our district. I know it's a real challenge, and I recognize that you know, we're looking to have a good partner that we will work with in a food service company, and I want to ensure that we're not being too prescriptive in the way that we present our RFP. Having spoken with Mr. Lang about this also, what I'd like to recommend for my colleagues' consideration is that we could instruct Mr. Lang to include in the RFP language that would introduce a weighted system, a criteria that could be used for the bidders themselves to kind of set their goals. Say, you know, and I haven't found any other districts that have this in place at this point, so we may be breaking new ground, but what I'd like to see is for whatever, you know, food service company is in their bid saying that they will reach a 5% threshold of locally sourced product. That's just an example. But so that we could, in our weighting system, which obviously our whole RFP will be tied to a rubric that allows us to award points over the course of review, this could be one more item that we add to that rubric so that our bidders would be competing against each other as part of their blind bid for a higher level of locally sourced product that would then earn them extra points in the consideration. I think that allows the industry to set the bar, which I think is appropriate, and they would be the experts who would be able to provide us that information. But there would be a real benefit then to the bidder that was able to incorporate that goal that I think we certainly have here in the district of, you know, better, fresher food that's locally sourced from our own area and region. So I would submit that to my colleagues for their consideration, that if we could, in the form of what was obviously a very succinct motion,
Motion by Ms. Martin
Yeah,
to
that.
incorporate local purchasing as a criterion in the RFP process.
Perfect.
Seconded by Ms. Scott on the motion? Seconded by Ms. Scott on the motion. Ms. Scott,
Yes to both.
please speak, Ms. Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a few notes myself about packaging, also about biodegradable. I know we don't want things to be cost prohibitive, but I don't know if part of that point system that Ms. Martin is talking about could include something about biodegradable food trays or packaging in addition to the fresh fruits and vegetables. I mean, I know they may not happen, but just if it could be a weighted system as far as, I know in the recycling end of things, if we can incorporate that somehow. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion as amended. Mr. Gignac on the
Thank you,
motion.
Mr. Mayor. Just to touch upon what Ms. Martin was just discussing, actually, somebody did approach me about that with this new RFP, and I was unaware of this, but apparently at some of our schools, there are staff and students that work on community gardens, and they're actually growing their own vegetables. And the question was brought up to me is, why can't we eat these vegetables at lunch? Why can't we incorporate this in our meals? And I think that's a great suggestion, and hopefully it will work out for us. Obviously, we'll see what happens, but I think that it's something that we really should look into. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this motion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Entertain then a motion to approve the authorization of the RFP. So moved by Mr. Leary, seconded by Mr. Gignac. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Ross Sikowicz? Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
Thank you. Next, we have convention and conference requests. I'd entertain a motion to take all 5 conferences together. So moved by Mr. Gignac, seconded by Mr. Conway. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Motion to approve all 5 together. So moved by Mr. Gignac, seconded by Mr. Leary. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Ross Sikowicz? Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
Next, we have professional personnel. The members of the United Teachers of Lowell hereby request to donate 12 sick leave days to Krista Siopes Clark, an occupational therapist at the Green Oaks and Meck Avenue schools. Motion to approve by Ms. Martin, seconded by Ms. Scott. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Ross Sikowicz? Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
Thank you. Before we adjourn, I was asked to announce that the Merrimack Valley Chapter of Parents of Murdered Children's 4th Annual Candlelight Vigil in honor of National Crime Victims' Rights Week will kick off at Lowell Senior Center next Monday, April 22nd at 5 p.m. And then at 7:30 p.m., there'll be a candlelight walk from the Senior Center to City Hall, escorted by the Middlesex Sheriff's Office and the Color Guard. So if you're able to attend, we'd certainly welcome you there. Also want to thank Mr. Conway for serving as chair in my absence. And
Jolly welcome, Mr. Mayor. I think our colleagues are happy to see you back. At least they can vote tonight.
I was at the Senior Center the other week, and a woman said she didn't understand what the problem with the mayor was. And she said she had seen the most recent meeting and said the mayor is a very nice young man. Of course, she was 92-year-old. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn, please. So moved by Ms. Scott, seconded by Mr. Gignac. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? We stand adjourned.